Welcome to the Soul of Medicine. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Soul of Medicine podcast. I'm your host, Kay Corpus, along with Rob Kress. And today we're diving into a fantastic topic that's gaining more mainstream attention every day, the healing potential of microdosing with mushrooms. Our guest today is the wonderful Uri Lee. She is a true pioneer in this space. As the founder of HealWithUri and a certified practitioner in everything from hypnotherapy to breathwork to Universal Healing Tao instruction, Uri brings a uniquely holistic approach to her work with mushrooms. She's been featured on major networks like Fox and CBS, sharing her expertise on holistic health, nutrition, and spirituality. And today she's here to shed light on the transformative power of microdosing. So born in Seoul, Korea with a royal bloodline tracing back to the 15th century, Uri's journey took a dramatic turn when a profound spiritual encounter in her mid-30s called her to leave the fashion world behind and dedicate herself to healing others. She's since studied a wide array of modalities, from plant medicine to indigenous ceremonies, and traveled to sacred sites worldwide in search of the keys to deep healing and longevity. Uri's work with the non-psychoactive Amanita mushroom of Siberia has helped thousands accelerate their journeys of emotional, spiritual, and mental growth, often at a pace 10 times faster than traditional therapy, as she shares. From overcoming addiction and trauma to unlocking creativity and focus, the potential of microdosing under the guidance of a knowledgeable practitioner like Uri is vast. So in this episode, we'll dive into Uri's personal story and the ins and outs of getting started with microdosing and how this practice intersects with other powerful healing tools. We'll explore common misconceptions, remarkable success stories, and practical advice for anyone curious about harnessing the power of mushrooms for growth and self-improvement. So if you're ready to open your mind to a fresh perspective on holistic healing and the cutting edge of plant medicine, let's dive in with the incomparable Uri Lee. Hi.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So good to see you again. We just saw you a few weeks ago. Had a wonderful retreat in Sedona. Rob, you want to start?
Yeah. So this has been really interesting to me because, well, we'll probably have a ton of questions. But, learning your story and knowing your story. So you were in fashion. What called you to healing? Like, what was that moment that you're like, okay, I'm in this world, but I'm supposed to be in that world?
I became a fashion designer, fashion consultant because we needed to make a living as an adult. And that's what was conditioned for most of our children growing up, that you need to go get a job that will pay your bills. And we look into what is my gift, what is my talent, what do you like, or what will make money. So I looked at my talent. It was somewhere along with art. I was a painter and drawer, and I had a desire to come to USA to go to college, art college, to further my artistry, and found out that you could not really make a living as an artist. So that led me to look into what can you do with your gift to make some kind of living. And that led me to fashion industry. When I was in New York City, there was a plenty of opportunity for you to make a living under fashion industry. It led me to relocate myself to Los Angeles downtown. And I started to make six-figure income right away, about 15 years ago. And then what happens? I think there is a destiny that you can call it if you are fairly open-minded and intuitive person, that something that you're doing is not necessarily what your soul wants to do. So I started having these difficulties as I arrived working in downtown parking lot. Even though it was not a difficult work for me, I had this hesitancy to go to work. I stayed in the parking lot 20, 30 minutes, just sitting, having resistance to go to work, get out of the car. And this is my soul battling. Okay, there's something going on. Like, why? This is your dream job, clothing buyer in downtown LA. You're making 6-figure income. So what's going on? So that led me to kind of look into the spiritual side of my practice. I start asking God, like, what's happening with my life? What's going on? And it kind of awakened me. Middle of nowhere in Florida, when I was visiting my fashion client in a room, that I engaged the God, divine, some sort of a spirit force out of just nowhere that would give me this message. You need to stop what you're doing right now and go out and help your people. And that was 18 years ago.
When you were in fashion, did you have a regular spiritual practice at that time?
No.
So that really came out of nowhere.
I would have to say there was this frustration as a woman in her mid-30s that why are you getting married, right? So there was a question at me from my parents and my friends, like, who's your boyfriend? Are you going to get married? And I would have dates, but I wouldn't get into this serious relationship that would lead me to engagement or marriage. And that was a little frustrating for me. My sisters were married and most of my friends were getting married, and I would have a hard time getting into committed relationship. And that got me to kind of having a little bit more engagement with God. Is there something wrong with me? Why am I not getting married? And what happened was I actually had this encounter that, okay, well, I'm 35 years old. And if this is what you want, God, do you want me to not get married and just be a single? Okay, I'll accept that. So I surrender myself. And a week later, that's what happened to me. The Florida God appearance.
So on this journey, then spiritual practice comes in, spiritual medicine comes in, plant medicine comes in. How did you come across plant medicine as well as, the connection into even working with mushrooms?
So right after my Florida spiritual awakening, a week later, I met my ex-husband who was deeply in holistic healing industry, and he was working with Amazonian herbs. So we got together very quickly and we started to work with Amazonian herbs. He was already very much engaged with healers from the world, including Maoris and some other shamans, and he was going down to Amazon to drink some ayahuasca. So I was introduced to ayahuasca fairly long time ago. And a year later, I went down to Amazon, had some ayahuasca and, had some engagement with all these plants in the jungle. But I wasn't necessarily called to work with the ayahuasca. I was more in a place also, I was very new to the industry. Just kind of working with the plants was what I always loved to do. So just the healing medicinal plants, herbs from Amazon, herbs from Korea, that's my background. So that's how I started to work with the plants, just medicinal herbs. And then that led me to study more of different types of modalities of healing, hands-on healing as a healers, working with the crystals. All those things were part of my journey. And I didn't quite know what was my path. I just kind of studied all different kinds of things. I work with a lot of Asian methods such as Qi practice, Tai Chi type of practice, meditations, Taoist. Those are a lot of my practice that I incorporated throughout. We needed to do that because my husband has some temper issues, the anger issues that was causing our relationship to separate us. So that's when I got to engage more deeper modalities such as hypnotherapies and past lives. What was my issue with my husband from my past life? I wanted to understand. So I started to dive in deeper into that. and I became a hypnotherapist. At the same time, I was introduced to mushroom journeys locally. That was actually about 7, 8 years ago. And ironically, I heard the same message I heard 18 years ago from my first mushroom journey, that you need to stop what you're doing. It's the same exact sentence, and go out and help heal others.
Okay, so let's talk about the mushrooms a little bit more. I mean, when you hear mushrooms, especially therapeutically, there are mushrooms like reishi, cordyceps, lion's mane, you hear a lot, turkey tail. But now we're talking about ones that are more on the psychoactive side. Two that come to mind would be one that you're going to teach us about would be amanita, correct? And then the other would be psilocybin, which many people know over the years. Can you kind of extrapolate on these?
Yeah, a little bit about it. So I was introduced to psilocybin mushroom first about 8 years ago, and I dove in quickly, and I knew that I needed to work with the mushroom. And I also asked mushroom spirit, could I work with you? And they were like, yes, we want to work with you. So I've been working with psilocybin for the last 7, 8 years, growing myself in my bedroom, working with other people's mushroom, engaged in participating, facilitating psilocybin mushroom journeys. However, this was something that was illegal to practice. So I had to do it discreetly, underground, and I just didn't know how I could work with them. And then Amanita mushroom showed up about a year and a half ago. And this was very much of a legal mushroom, actually. So I dove in a little bit deeper what it can do. And they were two different mushrooms. Psilocybin is psychedelic mushroom that works with a certain brain receptor, such as serotonin receptor. And you need to be careful how much you're consuming, how long you're consuming. Amanita, on the other hand, are more of an adaptogenic. It's a psychoactive mushroom, but it works with the GABA receptor, not serotonin. So they work with completely different receptors in your brain. So they are not same. They're not same mushroom at all. But when you microdose Amanita, the benefits I feel are greater than you're doing psilocybin mushroom microdose. I love psilocybin mushroom, what it can do for you. For me, psilocybin works better for me when you do actual ceremonial dose, actual trip dose with intention, rather than Amanita. You can do trip dose, larger dose, but you have to have somebody guiding you through, because you are not going to be able to understand the message coming through Amanita ceremony compared to psilocybin journey. You will be able to access the download by yourself, but Amanita will be a little bit more difficult.
How does that work when you're facilitating that with someone? So, for instance, you get a download, which is like a message or a lesson, but then to help someone else kind of extract the download, what do you look for in those cases?
Psilocybin would be, you set an intention and you're going to get a direct download within a week or two, if not on that ceremonial day. And it's easier for you to understand. Obviously, it's also important to integrate that into your practical life, but it's coming in very clearly what shows up. Right? Again, the integrating is another part, but Amanita ceremony it's not very clear because it's coming from your subconscious. So unless you have someone who can download with you, you're not going to understand right away what it means. Because it's like this. There's a tree, right? There's a tree, like let's say it's an apple tree. And psilocybin is kind of like you're accessing the apple above the earth, the fruit, right? Amanita trip is kind of like going down from the tree to the root and travel through the roots and connection entire earth. So it's difficult to understand what is being shown because it's all the Akashic record of your life. So I still struggle when I'm doing a little bit more of a dose with Amanita. How can I relate to what I just saw? Right? It's not, but it's so profound and the journey is deeper and longer. Like I said, 6 months later, what you saw from your Amanita ceremony can make sense. However, that's your deepest wounds or root connection from your generational. Once you can make that click, the healing can happen from the place of root. So that's what could be very profound. However, the benefit you can get from Amanita microdosing is you're taking a little pieces of it from the root, and it's enough for you to work it through, right? So that's why I feel that it will be beneficial for most of my clients to do it slowly in a small dose.
So, Uri, does that mean even using it on a daily with the dropper, just like that? It almost feels like peeling slowly an onion to get to those roots, because you could blast it open and expose sort of those roots, but I think for most people, I think even for myself, just I've seen a difference even just using the creams and then doing it in a little coffee. It's just something that my nervous system prefers to chop at it just instead of blast it open. It feels safer to me, but it's also profound, subtle shifts that are being made. And I guess what I feel, and Rob, you could say what you feel, sort of that fear isn't really there anymore. It is, but it's more like you're okay, you're standing firm, I know who I am. Those kinds of messages sort of come into me when I'm interfaced with things that usually take me off course, that I'm able to focus, not just in an intellectual way, but sort of in this like emotional way where it's like, no, you're okay, keep going, keep walking, you can do this sort of thing, which then leads me to the next layer of healing. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but that's my experience.
That's exactly the experience you can expect. And you're doing perfectly, because that is the essence of this mushroom. They will take that fear out of you by calming your nervous system and connecting you to divine. Most people, even though they said I'm a Christian, or Muslim, and I believe in God, but a lot of those people, religious people, still live under fear. So we live in very much of a fear-based society. Everything that people are worrying about and concerned about comes from fear-based. And what the Amanita can help us is take that pieces out. Wait a second. Why am I being fearful for this? That's what they are helpful when we're microdosing. So this is not the most popular mushroom to trip because it's taking you to these weird places like Robert said. What just happened, right? Because it is taking you to those sources, but because it's such a multi-dimensional place where you're going with it. So you're going to need some assistance to make sense out of it for sure. It's not something that I recommend if you're not experienced in plant medicine to do it by yourself. And then what happens is people will be like, okay, well, nothing happened. I'm not getting a clear download. So people give it up. But this is a shaman's mushroom. The shamans do recognize this mushroom because our priest and priestess for thousands of years have utilized this mushroom for deeper understanding of our consciousness and healing. There are limits what psilocybin can do, because psilocybin does not get to that place like Amanita does. I mean, psilocybin's amazing. It's way to open your heart and mind I recommend to everyone to do, and opens your emotional field. It's amazing. When you're able to combine these two, there's a true magic happens actually.
Who's the type of person that would use this? So for me, it's like my intention would be to tap into a creative space that I've never tapped into before for whatever reason. And when I see like you or other people who are using mushrooms or doing journey, the kind of things that they're producing in this world is like really amazing. So, I've done a lot of work trying to heal my other stuff. Do we have to use it to get to those places of super creativity? Rob was like, do we actually need to do that to get there? I'm like, I think I do, because I don't know how to get to those really creative places without assistance.
For healing and creativity, absolutely. I say you don't have to. You can be a creative person because you're creative because certain chakras are open. When you're looking at artists, and if you're able to scan your chakras, then those chakras are very open to receive the creativity. They're very much, they're channeling. When artists are very creative and talented, they're channeling their divine, right? Now, why was I not as creative or wanted to be creative before? Because that channel was closed. So if you want to be more creative, I do recommend you taking Amanita for sure. Now, is it necessary for everyone? It's not necessary for everyone. It's your choice.
I was just going to say that, that whole thing around my dad, like we were at dinner with him on Sunday, but there was like nothing. Like there was like but there was less fear of judgment, less fear of whatever, and I noticed that my dad was like coming over to us and like wanting to be in but we weren't displaying. I wasn't afraid anymore. Like wasn't afraid of, his whatever he does. It was a little weird. So weird in a good way. And I always kind of think about who could I be if I didn't have to worry so much about all of that? Because I think I spend a lot of energy worrying about what somebody thinks, not disappointing somebody, and all of that. So that's why this is so intriguing to me in a slow way. I'd also love to journey and kind of see that.
That will disappear. How others would think of you will start disappearing with any kind of mushroom, but more with Amanita, because Amanita's spirit is to replace love, divine energy from fear. That's the energy. That's their purpose, right? I think I explained this before. So they are slowly, as you're microdosing, they're taking that fear out of you. And then we don't just have a thing called fear, like this much, and then everybody has that much. All our Akashic records contains some sort of a fear. Either it contains love or fear. Loving memories, when you were running, in your race, and then you just love to run and you're getting to that place just with full of passion, that memory contains love, right? And there is a memory of you, how your mother hate you, right? Because you got C from your math, right? From our Asian mom, they were like, right? Then there is a fear attached to that. So I don't want this pain. So you're studying, you become a student, but all that it contains fear. For you to become a lawyer and doctor and all that, there are certain fear that is attached to that, unless it's coming from your pure joy. And then how much of that do you think we have? A lot. Actually, there are many miracles that we can manifest. It's the fear that is holding us back, right? That's why I'm a big most cheerleader of Amanita because it takes the fear out of you. It's like you just don't care. Okay, you used to act like that. And then what happened to us was I would get so charged because there is this consciousness. I'm afraid what it will cause. But once you take that out, you have that energy field just for yourself. And then where does that energy goes for you to create?
I see. Okay, that makes sense now because it almost helps remove the blocks, right? Because the energy can now flow, the creativity. It's not that it gives you maybe more creativity, but it actually opens the portal for the creativity because there's just a lot of stuff making it not flow, if you will.
So without you knowing, the charge that you had for somebody actually is the blockage for your channel to open up.
What's really fascinating about that is, like you just said, I don't care. So it's not to say I don't feel. Because now if we go to like traditional pharmacotherapy, right, what is that? That makes us not feel. So now we're to the point where we can actually still be in feeling, but not care about these fears that have been constructed, or which I think is pretty fascinating because when we first started talking about this, you mentioned that it stimulates the GABA receptor. So I go into my pharmacy mind, right? Almost like drug therapy, but it's not that because there's this other spiritual essence that comes from it. And as Kay alluded to with the fear, what you were noticing, Kay, that actually translated to me like very clear. Because I think what I noticed, and I think I said this during the retreat, and part of my goal was, okay, reach that potential. But it was always having this excessive energy that was very uncomfortable to me. And I didn't know how to deal with it. So I would suppress it. And you suppress that with too much exercise, with having a drink, whatever it might be. Now, what I just shared with Kay in that little break was that what I noticed was that, I mean, right now, like, even though it was supposed to stimulate my GABA receptors, which are down regulating, I've got a ton of that energy going through me, which I think is a creative source of energy, but I feel certainly more comfortable to deal with it, almost like the mushroom has my back, if that makes sense. And I didn't consciously notice that until, Kay, you shared what your experience was with that. So this brings it to me to the point where it takes it out of my science mind and it actually has, yeah.
So the GABA and serotonin is what the human beings can just categorize as what they could actually access for us to analyze under the term of science. These mushrooms can do a lot more than just the GABA or serotonin. It's simply that we represent which receptor it works with. But Amanita mushroom is an extremely spiritual mushroom. So the downloads that I'm getting isn't about I just feel great, I can relax. It's beyond that. It's just one part of it. It's just beyond what any of the ceremony can do because it's so deep. I have done all plant medicine ceremonies for me to become the plant ceremony facilitator and ceremonialist. I had to experience all of it. And people still want immediate reaction. Most people want, that's why the combo, you throw up and then there is a release. And that's what people love. And it's great. It's amazing. And I think if you are holding so much within your emotional field, I think you should go for it. Ayahuasca, another amazing plant medicine that can change your life because it's opening your chakras and just shows you who you are is beyond, what the box you lived under, right? It's an immediate result that people can engage with those types of plant medicine. That doesn't mean you're healed completely or half of what you're dealing with, because if it did, then people who's been on these journeys should have changed the world. There are a ton of people who's done ayahuasca journeys for 10, 20, 30, 40 different ceremonies. And sometimes they become the shaman of ayahuasca as a white man and white woman or so. And that's not necessarily happening. There are also a lot of corruption going on in plant medicine industry, utilizing this magical power for their benefits. So it's not just that. So what is it about Amanita that I treasure is that it's truly something that will bring to your consciousness for you to really dig in deeper, right? It's not something that you're going to get the result right there, right now. Although a lot of immediate benefits can cure from microdosing, it's like you're going on a journey of your soul's current life, past lives. You're going to have to be able to be ready for it if you're going to do the big journey with it. Like, okay, are you really going to do something drastic? And the journey that you have in front of you, it's not like, let me give you some pharmaceutical for you to feel better. It's not about feeling better. It's not what it does. It's about, are you going to really follow your soul's true purpose? It's that kind of thing that you're dealing with Amanita's ceremony. Everybody should do. I think the entire earth needs Amanita for microdosing. Amanita's ceremony, in other hands, not everyone is ready for
Well, I think that's interesting because that's how we see a lot of people doing it. I'm going down, do ayahuasca, then I blew my brains out and I saw these things and then nothing. Like, so what I like about what you're saying, I mean, it's so great to have a facilitator who understands where this piece actually belongs in the totality of healing. So maybe all of those modalities that you learned before, I think positions you to be the perfect person to help somebody walk through it, because not everybody wants that magic bullet, that magic pill, that magic supplement, you know, even from us. But it's like, well, you could take that, and it is magical, but it's like you have to do all the work around it, you know, continuously and have the intention around it. So what I hear from you is this, I hear the sacredness in microdosing, what the potential of it. And then the person has to actually meet and understand, you know, why they're doing it and the potential and the intention. So I think all of those, and this is what we tell our patients too, you know, you have to meet this halfway, you know, it's kind of co-creative and it could be really powerful if that's the case. But yeah, I mean, recreationally doing it without not intention and, you know, thinking that it's cool and the hot new thing to do is where I think some misconceptions have come with this practice also.
So Amanita is definitely not a recreational at all. Psilocybin could be, and then a lot of our 60s and 70s, our mom and dad, they used it for that reason, and it does work. The mushroom, they work with your intention. So if you're going to take the magic mushroom and go to a party, they're going to work with that. At the same time, if you're going to go and do a ceremony, they will work with that. So the outcome out of mushroom journeys are very different. Amanita, on the other hand, you will never be able to go and party with it. It will just never work that way. It's only for the ceremonial purposes, Amanita.
So, and then to define this more, when we say microdosing, that would be akin to, so you have these products and you use the Siberian source, correct? So the microdosing would be, for instance, I'm looking at your bottle and it will say 1/2, or talking to you, you know, anywhere between a half to a few dropperfuls a day. Would that be considered the microdosing actually on a daily basis, or?
So for daily basis, half the dropper, I do believe just around somewhere about an inch or half dropper long. It's good if you are, like I said before, if you're dreaming and if you're able to wake up in the morning when you should and go to sleep when you should, that's the right dose. Right? Now, if you are unable to wake up, if you're sleeping longer, so what happened to me was I took a gram yesterday. and then I'm sleeping for 10 hours, which is longer than my usual sleep patterns, that means that's too much. Although when I feel like I'm too tired, I feel like I'm getting sick, I need extra rest, then I would take 3 to 5 grams of the mushroom, and I will just sleep for 8 to 10 hours or 12 hours. And then I wake up and feeling very refreshed and not feeling the sign of sickness at all. That's when you can use a little bit more, called the microdose, for the healing benefits. But for microdose, I believe is the best less than 1 gram per day. Anywhere from 0.25 grams, which is like that dose, about inch long of a dropper, to a half gram, which is like 1 full dropper. That's pretty good for most people. And if you're really suffering from like depression, anxiety, then I do recommend them to take maybe a little bit more in the beginning of a healing journey for like a month or two. And then you can always reduce it. But with Amanita, I find lesser is better. It's just that if you can commit yourself to do it longer, you get more benefits.
That's great. I mean, I personally found that just for the little bit that I've tried it, because, when we were in Sedona, I went with like the 3 dropperfuls, right? Now I'm guessing that would have been about 1.5 grams. And I was like, I wasn't sleeping. it was almost like a lucidness of where I was, but it wasn't, so now when we tried it, I just did like a quarter 3 times a day. And that was the last couple of days. And that smaller amount made a profound difference in more of a beneficial way, I think, at least for what my relationship was to it at the time. So do you find it's very individualized that way too?
Yes, very individualized. Okay. Some people need just a very little per day. Some people need twice, or some people need a lot more. Like I said, I have a lot of people who's taking it for anxiety. They need it a lot more because their nervous system is so fragile. So it's a healing journey they're on. And then some people use 1 bottle a week, and that's what they may need. But it's regulating. They don't have to, get their hands on pharmaceutical. And they are not going to need more like that for a long period of time. It's just during that regulating period.
Are there any contraindications for microdosing, just in case people are curious about, should I not do this, or?
So this mushroom is adaptogenic, which means it will work with, most of the other elements. Again, if you're taking a very small dose, I feel it's pretty safe. That's a very little what I share with you in 1 inch dropper. It's about just the 0.2 grams of the mushroom. Now, there can be some people who may be a little bit more reactive to that than other people. Most people, it shouldn't. There may be a reason for it, and that's where the practitioner should come in to help with that conditions. Either, people are these days allergic to a lot of different things. Some people are allergic to mushroom in general, nuts, and people are just basically allergic to a lot of things these days. So I can't really say it's safe for everyone, because some people may be allergic to some chemical components that the mushroom is containing. It's always important for you to test it a small amount, muscle test it. Usually when you're engaging this mushroom, when I go out to an event or expo, this is usually how it is. If people are drawn to it, if they are good for you, people without knowing, they will just come towards to the mushroom. They'll come towards to my booth, because there's something that is aligning with them. in that case, if there is some kind of reaction, you just kind of want to adjust the dosage and understand and work with a practitioner to overcome, because any new substances can give you healing crisis if there's something that needs to be detoxified out of your system, right? Even if you're just to do celery juice fasting, you may experience discomfort, purging, or some sorts of things like that when you are on it, correct? Right? You know about this. So it may be that case. So if you are drawn to it, then it's more likely it's a healing crisis. If you're not drawn to it, then you don't take it. I never go after people out of my space. The way I present it is very much of a law of attraction. I don't ever go grab people into, hey, try this. Usually people come into the space because that's a natural muscle testing. People come, usually your body goes towards to it because there is a resonant, right? And then you try and you want it, you can take it. And I have produced more than, like 3,000-4,000 bottles of this stuff. So it's very much of what people are in need of right now.
It's kind of it on the mushroom. I mean, it's fascinating to me. And I think just to wrap it around, what really came to me from that is it's your relationship with it. And I like the idea of journaling, because I've noticed in just a short time, different feelings and things that I've noticed. So I think that would probably be part of that, on the microdosing side. So no, how about you, Kat?
Yeah. So where can people find you, Uri, and order your mushrooms and and coffee? And there are all kinds of preparations also that are lovely. They're not, you have teas and coffee and decaf. And where can we find you?
So my website, I have two websites, HealWithUri.com, which shares my practice, retreats, and ceremonies. And I have just a product website called AmanitaAngel.com. That's just a product. So you can find me there. Also in Instagram at HealWithUri. And through you too, through Kay. You can also access it through you if you are already friends with and patients with Kay. Journaling is a must, I say, working with the mushroom. I actually literally looked at my journal from 2 years ago before I engaged this mushroom. Although I did get out of it without mushroom, where I was, and this happens to me all the time. People lose hope of living these days a lot with all the challenges that's given. And, in the beginning of the journey, it's nice to write where you are at with your emotional state, financial state, and, where you are at, and just journal it out for minimum of 3 months, 6 months. And then you look back your journal, before your microdosing, you'll see the tremendous differences. It's a night and day.
Thank you so much.
I also want to add in here, you alluded to, we saw you in Sedona, and what's also really cool with Uri, where she does privates, but she also is a facilitator for retreats. And that's what Kay brought her in for the retreat, for the practice. And for anyone that's interested in that experience, I mean, you did work inside, we went and we did hikes, and the whole experience was just phenomenal. So, look her up on that realm too, because that was a pretty cool experience. So.
But thank you for having me, guys. And, anytime you have any more questions, feel free to just ask.
We will. Thank you, Uri.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Soul of Medicine podcast, where science meets soul for whole health healing. Are you ready to reclaim your energy, vitality, and soul purpose? Then feel free to head to our website at kcorpusmd.com and schedule an appointment for your root cause review.